Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Maximus McCullough with A1 Website Pro. Today we're going to learn how to go from Cpanel to Ispconfig. And you know, the benefit of having Ispconfig is it's free. Cpanel charges. Ispconfig is also a little faster than Cpanel. But either way, Cpanel or Ispconfig, you have a little bit of a learning curve. But Ispconfig is a little bit easier. Okay, so one of the things that I do is I start out, I get all my links ready. I use justforyou.easyblue.com, and I'll take, this is the website that we're going to be transferring, ankleandfeet.com, and we're going to be moving that over to Ispconfig from Cpanel. So I'm going to go here to my important links. I'm going to add the link. We'll call it ankle and feet website, because one of the thing is, whenever you're doing stuff like this, you want to be able to go to things quickly, and instead of having 10 million tabs up here, like probably I know a lot of you do, I like to have everything right here. You know, I got the ankle and feet website, I got the location where the domain is, and I can just keep track of everything. So we'll go to the Cpanel right now, and we're logged into the Cpanel. One of the things that, the very first thing that you want to do is you want to get this database backed up, because you want to zip the database along with the rest of the stuff in your file manager, okay? And the only really good way to do that is via SSH, which is shell. And we're going to be using some shell commands, and this makes your life so much easier. I mean, if you don't want to download and upload and all that stuff, this is the tutorial for you. It's going to be a little lengthy because there is a little learning curve transferring from Cpanel to Ispconfig. So I'm going to try to make your life a little bit easier by giving you all the codes and all the information that you need to do this. Okay, so everything is really located in public_HTML in your Cpanel. Okay, and we're going to need all of these files, but we're going to need one more, and that's the database. Okay, now to get to the database file, you go to this wp-config if it's a WordPress or any config file. And what you want to do is hit code editor, and you want to get everything inside here. I'm going to show you how to do it via SSH though. So let me just close that out. I have my little SSH right here. I have my little SSH command, so I can just go in, start doing what I need to do. And what we're going to do, we'll close this out. I was working a little bit earlier. We'll close this out too. Okay, we'll terminate that. And so we'll start with up the terminal, and we'll paste in SSH ankle and feet. We'll have to put in our password. We'll try to add it to unknown host, but the reason why it fails is I didn't give it permissions. So we'll go right here, log right into our Cpanel there via SSH, and I'll show you how to tour around this. Okay, so what we want to do is type ls. We go in there and see that public_HTML folder. We want to go cd public_HTML, just like that, right? Just like that. Okay, then hit a ls. Okay, now you can see all these files that are in here. Now we need to get the username and the password out of this wp-config file, right? So we type in nano wp-config.php. And I forgot my hyphen there. A hyphen in there, Maximus. Okay, there we go. And now if we scroll down here, we'll be able to get the information that we need. Now, we can hit Control V just to go down to the next page in Nano here. And here's all the information we need, the username, the password, to dump that database into the public_HTML folder. Okay, now I have a little thing up here. I'm just going to copy what we have there for our username and password. Now notice the database name is ankle and feet. All right, so we're going to copy that. We're going to paste it right here. Now, you don't leave the brackets in there. Whenever you look at my code and you're copying the codes, you want to replace it. Now, the username, okay, and we can also put the database name here, because that's going to make a database name, ankle and underscore wrdp1.sql. All right, and that's what we need. So here's the username. So let's grab the username, ankle and blah, blah, blah. All right. Now, you don't want to do what I'm doing here. You don't want to show everybody what you're doing because this is private information. But I'm making the video and changing everything, so it'll be impossible for somebody to take this information and do what I'm doing now. So I'm going to copy that. Now remember, we're still going to need this password, but we want to dump this database in. So let me hit Control X and get out of there. All right. Now I'm going to paste in that code, my SQL dump, and it's going to ask me for the password. See the password? So we're going to double click, grab this crazy password. We're going to put it in there, just like so. Okay. Now, if we hit ls, we should be able to see the file. And where's it at? Where's that file at? Here it is. Ankle and underscore word blah blah blah. Okay? So now we want to zip everything in this folder. We don't really have to zip the CGI bin. Okay, now let's zip everything up in this directory. Okay? So we'll have zip, and then we'll use this -r for all the files and all the directories. Okay? And we'll call this bk.zip, and then space, and then we'll use the asterisk sign to zip everything. And this is going, and it zipped everything up just like that. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so now we see this bk.zip, and it also includes our database. Okay? So the next thing that we're going to do is go to our Ispconfig. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we'll add our client in our Ispconfig, so they have a separate login and everything. So we'll add the client just like this, and ankle and feet, and we'll say Mr. Gary S. period. And this is going to be his customer number. C7 stands for C7, customer number 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and give him a username, and we'll just say Gary. The password, oh, let's make it real easy, and then I'll go back and change it. Well, okay. The language is going to be English. You could fill out the rest of this. One thing that I do is make sure that I have United States selected here. And we have to have an email address. And since I'm the only one that logs into this stuff, I am going to use my email address. And then we'll scroll down to the bottom, make sure that these are not checked. Hit save. Okay, so we've added a client, ankle and feet, Gary S. So we'll go to our sites in Ispconfig, and we want to add a new website. We're going to select the client, Gary S, ankle and feet. We're going to give a hard disk quota of 100 megabytes. Traffic quota of 400 megabytes. We'll enable CGI, SSI, Perl, Ruby, Python. That'll be an auto subdomain. We'll enable SSL just in case they get one and encrypt it. The PHP version is going to be fast CGI, and it's be fast CGI PHP, and it'll be the default version. We'll hit save. domain is empty. Oh, might help if we put in the domain name. So let's go ahead and put in ankleandfeet.com. And we could take out the HTTP and all that other stuff. Okay, so we'll scroll down here and make sure everything is just as so. Yes, save. Okay, now we've added a website to our Ispconfig. The next thing we have to do is get a shell user, okay, for this particular website, because we want to transfer files quickly. We don't want to do it very slowly. So we'll add a new shell user, and we'll just say Gary, and give it a password. And the quota, we'll just say 300. -1 is unlimited. And this where it says shell root, just put none. Okay. And then hit save. Okay, now we have our shell user. You can see his name's Gary. Okay. So this is what we want to do. We want to grab our IP address to our server. Okay. And we want to come here, SSH, and then it was Gary at the IP address. Okay. So we'll come down here in terminal, and we'll have a new window open. And we will paste that in there. We'll trust the host, add to known hosts, and then we'll put the password. All right, we hit ls. We can see where we're at, so we'll put cd. Go back to the uppermost directory. Let's type in ls. Okay, so now you need to know where to go right here. So if you go back to your site here, so let's go back to the website, because you're not going to remember where all this stuff is unless you write it down or you just know how to access it. See this var, clients, client 7, web 8. We need to copy that clear up to the var, come here, type in cd, and then just paste that in there. Okay, if we hit ls, there is a directory in here called web. That's where we want to be. We type in cd, web. Type ls. We're looking for an index.html file, and there we have it. Okay, because we haven't transferred him over yet, so we're not going to be able to see it on the server. Okay, not until everything is transferred. Now we're going to go get this at bk.zip at ankleandfeet.com. So we type in wget http://ankleandfeet.com/bk.zip. And there we go. We have all our files and database transferred. So we type in ls again. And here we could see that bk.zip. So we want to unzip it. Unzip bk.zip. Okay. ls to list the files. And we have all our files there. Now we can remove bk.zip. Okay, and that's gone. So we'll type clear and then ls. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to have to do is take this database and put it into a database. Right now it's just an SQL file, but these files in WordPress need to be able to access this database to work. So we have to go create a database in the Ispconfig. And the way you do that is you scroll here to database users first. You have to create a user for the database before you actually create the database. because this user is the one that will have access. So if you pick the client, and it's ankle and feet, just like that, and you create the user, we'll call the user Gary, and then we'll go ahead and make a password, and we'll save the database user. Okay, and now what we'll do is create the database. On database, add new database. We'll select the site, which is ankleandfeet.com. The type is MySQL. The database name we will call Gary. Database quota, we'll say 55 megabytes. Database user, C7 Gary. It's not going to be a read-only because WordPress needs to be able to update, add, delete. So we will need to leave that as that. The character set, we'll put UTF-8. Do not enable remote access. And click Save. Okay, now we have a database set up that we can put the SQL file into. Okay, I made you a little thing right here. Right here we got to put this is how you import the database. So you put the username, and if you want to double check for ankle and feet, scroll down to ankle and feet, there we go. Here we have the username, and then here we have the database name, which are the same, C7 Gary, C7 Gary. Okay, so let's put the username, C7 Gary. The database name is C7 Gary. Okay, now the file that we're going to be doing is the .sql. So what we want to do here is in our terminal we see that it's called ankle underscore this thing right here. So I'm just going to highlight it just like that, copy. I'm going to bring it over here, make things easy for me, paste it in there. So here I have the user and so on and so forth. Now whenever I enter this into the terminal, it's going to prompt me for a password. Okay, so I'm going to paste that in there just like that. Now it asks me for the password, so I have to put in the password that I assigned to that database. And there we go. That's how you import a database. And just to make sure everything's there, right here in your Ispconfig, it'll open up a phpmyadmin, which is a user-friendly interface, so you can check it out. So we'll open this up. I'll show you what it looks like. And the password, of course. And here's the database over here. And here you can see everything was brought in. So that's a lot faster way to do it. The final thing that you'll have to do is go to your domain manager, okay, and change the DNS. So we'll hit Manage DNS. Now this has custom name servers. So we're going to change it to default name servers so we can manage our DNS here at Avon Website Pro. So we're going to go change, hit default, and hit save. Now it'll take a couple minutes to process. Okay, now that the domain has propagated, we're going to go here to Manage DNS. Okay, now see this first record, it's pointing to this IP address. We're going to change that and have it point to our server. So we'll go get our server's IP address in our Ispconfig. Go back to our domain manager, edit this, put in the new IP address, and hit save. There's one more thing that I haven't done yet, and it's just to show you that the website is pointing to the new IP server we're going to get errors. So let me show you. ankle and feet.com. If you're not getting errors yet, it means it hasn't propagated. So one of the tricks that I like to use is I'll use a proxy, P-R-O-X-Y, just like that, hide me. Nice thing about using a proxy is you can access it from a different server, a different ISP, so you can see what's going on. So let's type in ankle and feet.com, just like that. Okay, so here we see that this is the default index of your website. It's pointed to our new server. Okay, now we're going to remove this index.html, and then you'll see the errors that I was telling you about. So I'm going to hit ls in our terminal, and see that index.html? WordPress doesn't use it. WordPress uses index.php. So let's go ahead and remove index.html, just like that. And now let's hit go again in our proxy. Now we have an error. Okay? What we have to do to resolve that is we have to edit our wp-config file to reflect the username and password that we assigned to that database. So we type nano wp-config.php. We'll scroll down here to our username and password section. We'll cut out a couple of these things. Control K. And the cache. Since the cache is different, because we're on a different server, we have to cut this out too. Now what we'll do is we'll enter our database name. If we go down here, we could change the username. And finally, we need to change the password. We hit Control O to write it to the file. Hit your return or enter key. Then Control X and get out of there. Now let's go back to another proxy. Just by typing proxy into Google. And there's all kind of free proxies that you can use out there that I hope you're in your web development. So we want to go to http ankleandfeet.com. And voila, here you go. So now we have successfully transferred a website from Cpanel to Ispconfig. And this particular one was a WordPress, but you would do anything else pretty much the same way. This is Max with A1 Website Pro. I hope this tutorial was beneficial for you.